feel like it's very, very evident that there's a lot of congestion that is happening in Nairobi.
Nairobi becomes one of the central hubs for migration in Kenya. Today, we try to understand what this means for Kenya and its citizens.
Yes, the experience has been good. I feel like you get to learn a lot, not just about other people, but also the country that you're in. You get to interact with other international students.
International migration is a two-way street. Is foreign migration here or abroad as promising as it's painted out to be? Kenya scrambles as USAID eliminates its support. Can Kenya survive on its own? And what does the end of this relationship mean for Kenya's future?
First of all, I think we're very ignorant here in Kenya, and we always assume that these problems are Western world problems. Then we assume that these people are the ones who are experiencing that, and it doesn't trickle down to us until we actually physically see it.
Climate change has become a global crisis. Today, we remember Wangari Maathai's legacy and ask, is Kenya still listening to her environmental call? Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's news program. I'm Catherine Wendia, reporting live from Cmm TV's newsroom. This is Beyond the Headlines. For the next 25 minutes, we bring you 4 developing stories highlighting human settlements, international migration, multilateralism, and finally, climate change, as we try to understand the impact these stories have on the citizens of Kenya. Stick around for more insight and feel free to join the conversation using our social media handles. On Facebook, we're CMM Newsroom, on Twitter, CMM Beyond the Headlines, and don't forget to engage us through our hashtag Beyond the Headlines KE. On our first developing story today, we take a look at human settlements. As cities continue to develop, urban migration is leading to overcrowding, strained infrastructure, and housing crisis. What is driving the mass movement of people into urban centers, and how are governments responding? Our correspondent, Tiffany Mbuyi, brings us more on this story.
Cities were never designed for the millions who now call them home. From gridlocked roads to bursting sewage systems, the strain shows. In Nairobi, the daily commute can last hours. Housing shortages mean contractors keep building new apartments to meet the new demands. According to UN Habitat, Kenya's urban population will hit 50% by 2030, and without urgent intervention, the situation will deteriorate further.
I feel like it's very, very evident that there's a lot of congestion that is happening in Nairobi. And the perfect example actually is CBD, because there are a lot of matatus, and yet you'll still find people queuing to wait for the matatus to go home. Anytime you come to CBD, you will find people, whether it's 6 a.m. or whether it's midnight, you will always find people. So congestion is actually a problem.
It's not just the informal settlement children who are affected, but our facilities, schools and everything have remained the same for a long time. Yet population have more than tripled. But the same schools that were there in the 70s could be the same schools that we have today, besides the private schools. But the government-owned ones have not changed. They've not increased in number. The resources there were meant to cater for smaller numbers of children, yet now the numbers have more than tripled or more than higher, many more times than what they used to be before. So the government needs to put into consideration that the population has increased, so have the children. So they make sure that there are more schools, there are more teachers, there are more resources.
The future of our city depends on proper policy and innovative solutions to create sustainable urban environments.
The special report that we have just covered highlights day-to-day struggles that many Kenyans are facing due to urban congestion. Our correspondent, Tiffany Mbuyu, joins us live for a deeper conversation. Tiffany, after looking into the issue, would you say that Kenyans should be seriously concerned about the sustainability of our cities?
Absolutely, Catherine. The current situation is dire, and the future could be even worse. Nairobi, for instance, was never designed to handle the population it has today.
Honestly, it's overwhelming just to think about it. Are there specific policies or innovations being discussed to manage the crisis?
Yes, Catherine. There are several ideas on the table, including expanding public transport systems like commuter rail and dedicated bus lanes, enforcing stricter building regulations to prevent unsafe and overcrowded housing, and developing satellite towns to distribute the population more evenly.
And from your research, what role do you think citizens themselves can play in easing the congestion crisis?
Using public transport or supporting policies that promote green spaces and pedestrian friendly infrastructure can make a big difference collectively. But really, the burden can't just fall on citizens. It's going to take a bold leadership and community cooperation to turn this around.
As we come to the end of this part of the show, I want to say thank you, Tiffany, for your comprehensive insights. Clearly, the path to sustainable urban living in Kenya requires both visionary planning and active participation from all of us. When we think about the future of our cities, it's easy to focus on the daily frustrations, such as traffic jams, water shortages, and overcrowded housing. But these issues go much deeper. They raise questions about sustainability, planning, and the kind of urban environments we want to build for future generations. Today, joined live by a special guest for the special report analysis, we dig deeper into the root cause of Kenyan's urban congestion and explore what can be done to reverse this trend. Advocate Titus Monene, thank you for joining us today.
Much welcome.
Mr. Monene, tell us, evidently, urban congestion is crippling our cities. Legally, where are we going wrong as a country?
We are basically going wrong because the law that was established is not being followed to the letter. We have a very progressive constitution of Kenya. Under Article 184, it recognizes the need of urban planning and orders Parliament to pass a statute. Parliament did that under the Urban Cities Act 2011, whereby there are two boards, one board for the cities and one board for municipals, meaning there are two classifications of urban areas, municipals and cities. And recently you had Ruto make Eldoret a city. So it means it will have a board with 12 members. A board of the municipal only has 9 members. Where we are going wrong basically is that the boards are not working to the expected objectives of the act.
Why is there such a resistance toward proper urban planning by both government and the public?
It is because they are vested interests in urban areas. Like if you go to an area like Nyamakema, there are a lot of interest there, small interest and big interest. They don't want that market to be destroyed or decongested that area. And also there are matatus who are dropping passengers there. As you can go there, you see how it is. And those interests will naturally resist from being moved because that's where they earn their daily earning. But if we were to follow the law properly, it is better we move.
And how can citizens push for better planning of infrastructure?
By using the transport infrastructure the right way. Because even the lack of observing traffic rules also causes congestion. And also agreeing to follow government plans, like you don't build without an approval and everything of that kind.
We know that Nairobi is a place many people migrate to for better opportunities and a better life. However, from your understanding, do you think that there is something that the government can do to reduce congestion in Nairobi by developing other counties as well, and developing and investing in other counties?
Yes, if you see the essence of the evolution, if you go back to the history of the Constitution, devolution was actually meant to achieve that, to distribute resources to other counties, because Nairobi was 60% of the whole economy of Kenya at that time. We passed a law, we passed the Constitution which allowed devolution in order to spread the wealth across the country. Devolution has faced challenges, as you know. Those in offices use the county resources as if they are theirs. So the purpose of devolving funds is not actually achieved.
Mr. Monene, thank you for taking the time to speak to us today. Your insights on human settlements and the congestion being experienced in Nairobi have been very valuable. And we do hope that the Kenyan people can fully take in what you have shared here with us today.
Welcome.
Our second developing story today focuses on international migration. Every year, thousands of students seek education abroad, hoping for a better future. But behind the promise of better opportunities lies the reality of challenges from financial hardship to cultural adjustment. Our correspondent, Sean Jenga, takes us through this news report.
While many Kenyans leave for studies abroad, Kenya itself is also home to a growing number of international students. According to the Commission for University Education, over 5,000 foreign students were enrolled in Kenya universities in 2023, mostly from neighboring countries like Uganda, Tanzania, and South Sudan. These students cite affordable tuition, quality education, and cultural similarities as major drawing factors.
Experience has been good. I feel like you get to learn a lot, not just about other people, but also the country that you're in. You get to interact with other international students.
But they too face challenges, including visa registration and limited accommodation.
I think one of the biggest challenges I personally face and also other international students face is applying for visas because it takes a lot of time. For example, currently, my passport expired, so I had to apply for a new passport so that I could renew my visa. So the whole process of applying for a new passport and also applying for a visa has taken me approximately 1 year.
If you check well, most jobs are saturated. You find people went to school, did this amazing, very, very amazing careers, but you find that it's so saturated. So they feel like there is better opportunity outside, and that is why people are migrating.
Despite the hardships, many students push forward and persevere, hoping both their hard work and their family sacrifice pay off in the long run. From Cmm TV, I'm Sean Jenga.
In our special report, we talked about international migration for education. When we think about it, we often think about Kenyan students seeking better opportunities abroad. But migration is a two-way street. Kenya has become a destination for many foreign students. While our students abroad struggle with high cost of living and cultural shock, foreign students here in Kenya face their own challenges. But both groups share common struggles of adaptation, financial pressure, and finding a sense of belonging. Live in studio today for our second special report analysis, I'm joined by data analyst Claire Awange to shed more light on international migration. Mrs. Claire, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Catherine, for this opportunity.
Ms. Claire, tell us, from your research, what are the key drivers of international migration for Kenyans today?
Currently, economic hardship remains the biggest driver of moving our youth to migrate out of Kenya. There's high unemployment rate currently running at 40%. Even those with university degrees, think about our doctors, our lawyers, our engineers, are not able to secure a well-paying job. This is pushing them to seek work abroad.
And from all that research, do you think that they are right? Do migrants genuinely find the success they're looking for while migrating abroad?
It's complicated. Some, especially those in high demand fields like the IT and healthcare, are able to secure jobs. But for many, the reality is tougher than expected. The high cost of living in countries like the US is really, really difficult. And this includes the Canada and the UK. And work visas often come with restrictions. In fact, data shows that 35% of the Kenyan students abroad face financial struggles within the first year.
Wow, that's a high number. And what about the legal challenges? How difficult is it for Kenyans to integrate into foreign job markets?
That's a high number. It's actually true, and it varies from countries. Some countries like Canada have more welcoming immigration policies and have tightened their visa rules. Kenyan professionals often face difficulties getting their qualifications recognized. And for example, a doctor trained here may have many years of just learning and having to go through different exams before they can practice in the countries abroad.
That must be frustrating. Now, let's talk about the impact of migration on families left behind. How do remittance affect Kenya's economy?
Okay, that's true. Remittances are a lifetime. Last year alone, Kenya migrants sent over 4 billion USD. That's more than what we earn from the tea and coffee exports that we do in the country as a part of our exports. This money helps pay for the school fees, healthcare, even the real estate investments, and that's actually a great thing that our youth are currently investing in. But the downside is that families experience long separation of time. That means I'm used to seeing maybe Angela every day, and now there's a distance aspect in it.
That's a crucial point. We often focus on the financial benefits but overlook the emotional toll it has on migrants. Now, some Kenyans are returning home to invest in businesses. What's driving this specific trend?
Actually, it's a good thing. Yes, we are seeing a rising return of migration, particularly among the professionals in the technology, agribusiness, and fintech. Many feel that after gaining international experience, they can build something in our country, something very meaningful. However, the government needs to do more to make returning attractive, such as offering breaks or business grant for the returnees.
Oh, finally, Claire, is migration ultimately good for us as a country, or is it leaning more towards the bad side?
Okay, I'll just give my opinion as a data analyst and out of the research I've done, it's both. Migration can open doors for economic growth, but if too many skilled workers leave, our industries will truly suffer. So we should make it very, very attractable for any Kenyan to stay in Kenya, just as it is as of appealing as living.
Thank you, Claire, for taking your time to speak to us today. Migration is clearly a complex issue that affects Kenya in multiple ways, and we need smarter strategies to maximize the benefits while also minimizing the costs on us as a country. Once again, Claire, thank you for your time. We are very glad to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and let our youth keep on keeping their head high. Thank you.
Coming up next after the break, we take a look at multilateralism and what it means for Kenya as the US decides to pursue a more unilateral approach, ending their support to Kenya and various countries.
Connecting the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. We're glad that you're still with us. In our third developing story, we take a look at multilateralism. For years, USAID has been a pillar of support for various development projects in Kenya. Now, with the elimination of funding as the US aims to follow a unilateral approach, we try to understand what this funding cut will ultimately mean for Kenya's future. Our correspondent, Zakaria Abbas, brings us more on this story.
For decades, USAID has funded projects in health, education, and infrastructure across Kenya. This support has been crucial in providing vaccines, building schools, and improving rural networks. But with the recent cuts, the effects are already beginning to be felt across vital sectors. According to USAID reports, in 2022, Kenya received 400,000 million in foreign assistance, with health taking up to 60% of the budget. These funds have supported HIV and AIDS programs, malaria prevention, and material health initiatives. Without these resources, communities risk losing access to life-saving services.
I went to hospital the other day, and I found that these drugs that are usually given for free by USAID now are being charged, or you wouldn't be given the full dosage because they're trying to, the funding has been cut off. That means the goods are not there, they're not coming anymore. So that means someone gets this shortage.
I feel like Kenya will suffer a bit with of losses in the education sector and the health sector because we mostly relied on funding from the US. So it's going to be a hard bit for Kenya.
But it's not just healthcare at risk. Education programs funded through USAID, such as scholarships for underprivileged children and teachers training initiatives, have also been disrupted. In agriculture, farmers who benefited from modern farming techniques and seed distribution programs now face an uncertain future. While USAID has long been a lifeline for many communities, the shift away from dependency demands new strategies. For Kenya, this is a moment of reckoning to rethink its development path and invest in homegrown solutions. From Cmm TV, I'm Zakaria Abbas.
The role of foreign aid in shaping Kenya's development cannot be overlooked. For years, organizations like USAID have helped strengthen our healthcare system, education sector, and agriculture. But what happens when that support begins to dwindle? Today, on our special analysis segment, with the help of a special guest, we explore the realities of a post-aid economy. With reduced funding, Kenya faces hard questions about self-reliance, economic diversification, and the urgency to develop sustainable local solutions. As we stand at this crossroads, the bigger question remains: how do we transition from dependency to independence without jeopardizing the most vulnerable communities? Advocate Francis Mora, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Catherine.
How do we transition to a self-reliant country? Instead of relying on other countries, how do we move to become a more unilateral country?
That's a very good question. You see, with the cutbacks that have already happened, the question now becomes what is next for the Kenyan economy? So one of the things that we can do as a country with immediate effect is first to ensure that we first reduce on the wastages that exist within the government, as well as in these programs that are funded with foreign aid. These wastages would ensure that this reduction of wastages, as well as the reduction in public misuse of funds, would ensure that there is vital funding that can then be directed to these critical areas.
From your understanding, is there a risk of diplomatic fallout with the US cutting crucial funding to Kenya?
I would say no, per se, simply because you see Kenya and the US, which is the biggest funder of global foreign aid within Kenya, enjoy very special relation. For starters, Kenya houses the largest embassy, US embassy in Africa, and this is by no design. This is not by default. This is by design. This is simply because Kenya plays a very strategic role geographically in terms of curbing the terrorism activity, particularly within the Gulf of Aden, as well as the point in time, simply because there are still continued interests within these two countries that will continue existing simply because the US has a critical stake in terms of security.
Very interesting. Advocate Mora, thank you for taking your time to give us an in-depth analysis on this topic. As CMM News, we are very glad to have you here and we are sincerely grateful.
Thank you, and the pleasure is all mine.
Our final developing story today takes us back to the roots of environmental activism in Kenya. As we remember Professor Wangari Maathai, the Nobel Peace Prize winner who sparked a movement for sustainability and conservation. We tried to see if years after her passing, if Kenyans are still on the right path and honoring her legacy, or have we deviated? Our correspondent, Stacey Waithera, brings us more on this story.
When Professor Wangari Maathai began the Green Belt movement in 1977, few imagined that her vision would lead to the planting of over 50 million trees across Kenya. Her work not only focused on reforestation, but also on empowering women, fighting corruption, and defending human rights.
It becomes very clear when you try to protect the environment that if you do not have democratic space, if you are not able if you do not have governments or a governance system that respects human rights, then it's very difficult to protect the environment.
First of all, I think we're very ignorant here in Kenya, and we always assume that these problems are Western world problems. then we assume that these people are the ones who are experiencing that, and it doesn't trickle down to us until we actually physically see it.
I do think that a little percentage of Kenyans do care about the environment. That's on a positive note. But on the negative note, the highest percentage do not care about the environment. And it's more factual in the sense that you find that our climate change and it's really deteriorating day in, day out, to a point that we are not able to predict weather patterns nowadays like we used before. And it's so factual that whatever the meteorological department is giving out, the data and information, it, at most times, at least, like let's say for example 70%, it doesn't relate to whatever they're saying.
Education have a critical role to play in raising awareness about climate change amongst the young people, because in today's generation, if we don't talk to them about climate change, that means our incoming generation is going to suffer.
Today, as climate change intensifies, the environmental challenges facing Kenya are greater than ever. Deforestation, drought, and flooding are threatening communities and food security.
When we think about climate change in Kenya, it's impossible not to reflect on the work of the late Professor Wangari Maathai. She taught us that environmental justice is social justice, that conservation isn't just about trees, but about people, livelihoods, and national security. Today, for our final special report analysis in studio, I'm joined by Gerance Mutwal, an environmental scientist. Through him, we find out more about how far we have come regarding climate change and what remains to be done in the fight against climate change. Mr. Gerance, thank you for joining us today in studio.
Thank you for having me, Catherine.
Tell us, what is Kenya's greatest climate threat?
At the moment, there are several myriad of threats that climate change is causing to Kenya. We have extreme weather events, we have attack on our forest, we have drought, we have locust infestations, and all these things. These are some of the climate threats that we're facing in Kenya, and each and every day we get to see like Kenyans are very resilient when it comes to these climate threats. But at the same time, our resilience can only reach at a certain point, and from a tipping point, we definitely have a very big problem going on, and that's the reason why we need to make sure that all the policies and everything that we do, the decisions that we make each and every day should work towards making the planet a better place and elevating ourselves from the climate crisis.
Do you think that the policies set by the Kenyan government are keeping up with the changing times?
Yeah, Kenya has the best policies in Eastern Central Africa and even Africa in general. But the main challenge that you're having is implementation of these policies. For example, we have policies that tackle plastics. We have policies that tackle climate change. We now have a policy that talks about carbon credit, which I rarely, like myself, I don't believe in it. But we have a lot of policies, but when it comes to really implementing them, there's a big challenge.
You've mentioned carbon credits. Can you please expound more on that topic, on your views on that topic?
I don't believe in carbon credits because I believe carbon credits just like giving permission for the polluters to continue polluting while the communities, indigenous communities and communities in the front line facing the consequences of the climate crisis. So we should never give leeway of polluters to continue polluting, and but rather we should make sure that we have like nature-based solutions and supporting these indigenous communities to be resilient according to this climate crisis.
From your opinion, is the late Professor Wangari Maathai's legacy still alive in the Kenyan community, or has it been toned down over the years?
Wangari Maathai's spirit continues to live on, and it's now impacting even much more. I think you've seen like there's been a little bit of attack on our forest, and you've seen Kenyans standing up to make sure that not like even an acre of Karanga forest is high for development. We've seen attack on the Lua forest, we've seen attack on Gom forest, we've seen attack in Song forest, Aberdares. Like I can go on, and like there who Wangari Maathai is, but his spirit and the spirit of conservation, the spirit of human well-being continue to live. within the people of this country. And so, like I would say, yes, the spirit continue to live in these people, even if they don't know who Wangari Maathai is. And may her soul rest in peace.
We do hope that as the late Professor Wangari Maathai keeps resting, as Kenyans, we never allow her legacy to become a thing of the past. Mr. Gerrans, once again, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you honoring our invite.
Thank you for having me.
That's it for Beyond the Headlines. I just want to say a big thank you to our viewers here in Kenya and around the world for joining us and for also taking your time to engage with us through our social media platforms. Don't forget to keep the conversation going. We shall see you again next week, same time, same place.